Welcome, everybody. Welcome. So we have many people arriving. My name is Charlotte Dufour. I'm with the COFSA Secretariat, and I have the pleasure of hosting this meeting today. I'm just going to write it in my name. So welcome, everybody. If you want to write in the chat where you're calling from, where you're joining us from, it's always lovely to see the diversity of participants and geographies that come into these spaces. So please don't hesitate to introduce yourself in the chat. We'll just be taking a couple of minutes to allow everybody in, allow everybody to arrive. And while we do that, I'll be just inviting you to not be checking your emails or sending off that last thing, but take a moment to breathe or look out the window. I'm here in France. It's strangely beautiful weather, very warm. So we have two friends from Brazil, at least. Welcome. And from Peru, bienvenida. Yes, I was telling, for those of you who joined after I was inviting you, you can introduce yourself in the chat, saying where you're calling in from, maybe which organization you're working with, or if you're a farmer in particular, if you're working with farmers, we're always happy to know. Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Raluca. Where are you calling from, Raluca?
I'm from Romania.
Oh, wonderful. Welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, we have Shirley from Namibia. Hello, Shirley.
Hi, Charlotte.
Oh, people calling in from Delhi, Italy, Berlin. Abdulba, you cannot hear anything. I think everybody else is hearing okay. Okay. Welcome, Sarah from the US, Thailand, Honduras, Niger, Netherlands. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Nigeria. Wow. So I think I'm going to slowly get us started because we have a very rich program ahead of us with this beautiful lineup of speakers that you see here on the screen. So welcome from Cyprus, from the UK, from Tunisia. It's nice to recognize some names who've been with us before. And I think if Alice or Noemi, if you can see with Abdul in the chat, because I think he can't hear us. Please, you can all mute your mics as we engage. So first, I'll introduce COFSA. COFSA is the Conscious Food Systems Alliance. It's a community which is promoting a focus on greater reconnection to self, to others, to the land and nature, so that we can foster sustainable, equitable, healthy food systems. And we work to strengthen collectively inner capacities required for food systems transformation. And we do so by learning from each other and by focusing on certain themes. And today's focus is on farmers' well-being and psychological resilience. Why is this theme? Farmers worldwide under increasing stress. It's always been a difficult job, but with climate change and food prices, the tensions with inflation, with conflict and its impact on the various parts of the food system, things are getting tougher. And we know that depression, suicide are unfortunately all too common in this area of work. And it's particularly tragic as farmers are those who are nourishing us. They are giving life. and yet their circumstances are difficult. It's a topic not many are talking about, and this is why we feel it's really important to open that space. And Noemi, may you maybe take off the screen share? And I'll invite you to spotlight some of our guests today. We're co-organizing this with Gary Belkin from COP Squared, which is Care for People and Planet. And Gary will tell us a few words about that. We have Kashtub from Atmiyata, an amazing mental health program for rural communities in India. Christiane Monsieur from FAO, working at the Dimitra project, and Nana, who is working with SECAM. I'll say a few more words about them as they come in. I'd like to also remind us that we had a first event on this topic in July, and in that we were really more in listening mode. We had some beautiful listening groups. We were honored by the presence of farmers from different parts of the world who shared the challenges, and they're very real, very concrete. There's the economic challenges of making farms thrive, often in extremely variable and difficult market conditions. There is the increasing instability, variability of climate. There is the social challenges, the isolation, the fact that in many countries, young people are seeking opportunities elsewhere. There's a sense sometimes of being disconnected from the capacity to advocate for policies that affect their lives. And so, yeah, it's tough out there. But at the same time, we heard a great passion for their work, appreciation for the connection it gives them with all of life through nature. And we also heard that there's a lot going on to try to, reach a hand out and try to help. And so last time we also started just scraping the surface, but today we're going to dig deeper of what we can do in practice. And with that, I would like to invite Gary to say a few more, because Gary, you're really working to bring those positive examples to the surface and help amplify them and build support for more attention to mental health in the context of climate change, not just in food and farming, but also in food and farming. So thank you for being there.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlotte. And it's really been a fun privilege to be working with you and COPSA in elevating and spotlighting this issue of mental health, psychological resilience more broadly, really thinking about mental health as a resource, as a strengthening, not just a caring, which it is obviously as well. And as you mentioned, at our first run at this topic over the summer, and now today, one of our first intentions was to see, is there a community of interest out there in this topic? And I think we have validated that. Across this last and this session, just the diversity. We have every continent here. Just the widespread ways that people come to this issue. Farmers themselves, those working with them, and others who have a stake in the success of smallholder farmers globally, really seeing this issue of mental health and psychological resilience as only becoming more and more important, especially in the context of climate change. So it's great to see everyone here. We want to think with you over time how to make this into a movement. And how COPSA and my network, the COP Squared network, help accelerate it, how we could be useful in fueling it, and in translating the interest into action. As Charlotte briefly mentioned, I put together a now 450 organization and growing network, COP Squared, which has a whole array of sectors and stakeholders and actors and regions involved, but are working on climate change, sustainability, environmental justice, but all coming up against these mental health, psychological needs, challenges, opportunities. And we are working with the Race to Resilience, the UN Race to Resilience, about how they include psychological resilience within their goal of reaching 4 billion people by 2030. And are launching that strategy at COP28. But more importantly, we're launching what we're calling early adopter efforts, which are really, some of them ridiculously ambitious efforts to put often peer and community-led support capabilities on the ground, including some that focus on smallholder farmers, but also focus on informal urban settlements and so forth. And I have to say, one concrete value already of these convenings on this theme I am grateful for is that I got to meet Christian and Jasmine from Atmiata, now represented by Kaustubh, who are now early adopter partners. So we've done that kind of networking already, and hope to do more of it and be catalytic for more to happen along those lines. So I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you very much, Gary. And I can see from the introductions in the chat, what a rich audience we have here with us. And please do spot yourselves, connect, and maybe there's new partners in the room. And I think that's what's inspiring COPSA and COP Squared, is really this notion of the power of connection to amplify support. I would also like to say that, a bit what we share with COP Squared is this idea that sometimes, there's a lot of investments in food and agriculture, and maybe we have here in the room some ideas that can be taken up by these large-scale programs, and that can add support to this dimension of farmers' well-being, which is often neglected. And maybe with a little extra, then hop, there can be a much bigger impact on their lives. So let's see where we go. But before we do that, let's think of our own well-being. Let's help ensure we're all centered and fully arrived. And for that, we're going to be guided by Nana in a little centering practice. Nana, it's all yours.
So hello, everyone. I will keep my introduction a bit later, but we will do like mindfulness movement for a couple of minutes. So when you think about farmers, it's very important their hands. What can we do without their hands activity? So first, we will, wherever you are in the world, just you are connecting with your sitting place, but you will touch your hand and give a little hand massage first. Yeah. You can also look at your hand. You have 5 fingers and then nails. So just have a connection with your hand. What my hands is doing today? Are they well? No. Imagine farmers always touching their soil with the hands and working with our vegetables. So it's like, wow, hands is very special organ. And you can rub a little bit, keep some warmth. Maybe sitting with a lot of computer, maybe a little bit cold your hands. So just make a little warmth. And have a stroke from your shoulder to your hand. Just really connect with your arms. Don't get shy. You're alone in front of your computer. So just and of course, if we have a hand, we have a heart space. Just for half minute, we will put our warm hands into our heart and connect with your heart space. How's your heartbeat now? Is it excited or is it calm? You just rush into our Zoom meeting, or you are well prepared? After this space, we will do the one exercise I do with our farmers in Egypt, because we are all sitting at this moment. So first, think about what you ate in lunch. Did you eat rice or bread or oat, any kind of grain? But you will imagine not as a food, but the plants in front of you. If you had a bread, you will imagine the wheat plants, whole plants in front of you. If you had rice, if you had a corn, but you will imagine the plants in front of your heart. And then you can look at me once. So with your hands, your warm hands, I will show you once. You connect with the root and then into the stem, into the grain. This is a movement we will try. So I will show you a little bit. Okay. So you can go really down to the root, to the earth, through the stem, and it's the flowering or fruit is happening around you. Yeah. But imagine the picture of the plant's well, root, stem, and grain. And root, stem, and grain. Of course, in the root and earth, there's a compost and microbe, all these little beings. And then sap is going upward, and there's a fruit or flower is blossoming. Yeah. And now imagine this is whole your body is also like a plant. You're down to your feet, through your heart, through your mental well-being. Just we will do this movement maybe 7 times. Earth and sky. Art, summer. Art, summer. Earth and sky. I'll be a little bit quiet. We can do in silence 3 more times. And at the end of the session, I ask our farmers, all our hands to their heart. Between the earth and sky, we are human being in the middle. So hope today our session, we can connect with the earth, even we are in front of computer, connect with our sky and our plants and farmers' heart and farmers' well-being today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nana. And thank you for, I could feel we were becoming one big field, spanning the whole earth. Beautiful. Oh, and it's just also a perfect example already of something being done with farmers. And so now, Noemi, if you can spotlight our panel like earlier, so with Kaustubh, Christian, and Nana. And we're going to hear, maybe actually, no, just spotlight one at a time. I'm giving wrong directions, right? Because we're going to have their sides. So if you can, we're going to start hearing from Kaustubh from the Atmiyata program, a really fascinating program in India, which is led by the Center for Mental Health Law and Policy. And that's something really interesting as well, is this very concrete action on the ground, but also a dimension of influencing policy. And Kaustubh is a senior research fellow for the Atmiyata program. You're a consultant psychiatrist and a senior research fellow at the center. So you've been working on this project since inception. And please tell us the story, Kaustubh. How has this been unfolding? What are you learning in the process? Where do you see it going? We are all ears.
Thanks, Charlotte. Thanks for giving this opportunity for Atmiyata largely. What I'm going to do is I have a few slides largely with the pictures. Through that, I'm trying to tell the story of Atmiyata. Atmiyata is really a story of our community volunteers who work across hundreds of villages in India, and I'm going to talk about them. Let me share my screen and then I'll start. Okay, so Atmiyata is as we say always, it's a journey of really a compassion. It's a journey of empathy. It's a journey of tapping onto existing social capital which we have, across all our communities, and that's why we say Atmiyata is a community-led mental health and social care initiative. I'll talk more about why it's mental health and social care and what exactly Atmiyata volunteers do. So as Charlotte already introduced, I'm Kaustubh. I'm part of Atmiyata since last 11 years now. Atmiyata, we are proud about Atmiyata as it was also one of the 25 good practices listed by World Health Organization as community outreach mental health services across the world. So that's largely the Atmiyata for you. What I wanted to say in the beginning, that Atmiyata has been scalable. Atmiyata
Buscando
has been
dispositivos.
adaptable.
Conectado con iPhone de Soraya.
Okay, I'll just pause. There is somebody unmute. Okay, so I'll restart. So Atmiyata is an initiative which is scalable, which is adaptable. When I say adaptable, as in replicable to different contexts, as well as it is sustainable. Currently, we are working across we are working across 2,000 villages, which is catering for almost 3 million rural adult population. And we have a strength of around 2,500 volunteers. This is spread across 5 states in India. So that's the scale right now we are working at. Among these, now I'm going to tell you the story of Atmiyata volunteer, which we also called as Atmiyata champion. This is some of these pictures are from the villages, and the peoples you will see in the picture, we have taken consent from them for this picture. So I just want to say this before we start showing the pictures. So this story is of Naveen Bhai. Naveen Bhai is our Atmiyata volunteer or community volunteer. Naveen Bhai is around 46 years old. He lives in a Kanod village of state of Gujarat, which is one of the western state of India. He's became part of Atmiyata back in October 2018, when one of the Atmiyata project staff, we call as Atmiyata community facilitator, visited Naveen Bhai, informed him about Atmiyata initiative, informed him our aim and goal of working towards communities well-being, communities healthy living, and community improvement in communities resilience. And that's how Naveen Bhai got initiated or got liked about Atmiyata and joined the journey of Atmiyata since 2018. Again, Naveen Bhai is a part of, as I said, more than 2,000 volunteers now. So what happens in the journey of Naveen Bhai as a volunteer? Naveen Bhai got through a rigorous 7 days of training. Training largely equips Naveen Bhai with identifying different mental health conditions and then how to provide a psychosocial support to people who are going through mental health distress or different mental health conditions. Through these trainings or after these trainings, Naveen Bhai also get a close mentorship and support by Atmiyata community facilitators. And that is largely one-to-one mentoring support where community facilitator meets community volunteers like Naveen Bhai and helps them troubleshooting in their work. Naveen Bhai largely, whenever talks to many people in their own village settings, identifies people who have a different distress or mental health conditions, then provide them with 4 to 6 curated counseling sessions, which are basically focused on problem solving, active listening, and behavioral activation. Some of these counseling techniques which are used across the world in low resource settings, and they are evidence-based. Naveen Bhai then also shows films which are based on the social determinants of mental health, like domestic violence, unemployment, and mental health issues, or financial issues like in farmers or climate change, and so on and so forth. And through these films, Naveen Bhai tries to discuss about mental health in his own community. What we have understood also, Naveen Bhai, through these films also identifies people who may have mental health issues. And that is how they can reach out to people who have distress and provide the counseling sessions. Like Naveen Bhai, there are multiple community volunteers who also provide support to the fellow villagers. Naveen Bhai also involves in facilitating social entitlements to people who are from vulnerable as well as marginalized communities. And whenever there is a kind of a doubt, or Naveen Bhai feels that some person may need a professional help, they refer them to a nearest public mental health facility. And that is how they initiate the referral pathway whenever somebody needs a psychiatrist or a psychologist support, to be specific. Naveen Bhai, like champions whom we have across these 2,000 villages, have also supported by 3 to 4 fellow villagers whom we call as a friends or mitras. These friends or mitras, largely eyes and ears of Naveen Bhai, they identify people with mental health conditions and then they refer them back to Naveen Bhai like champions. So in a sense, through the community support, community acceptance, we have formed a community network, or people themselves are now taking care of their own mental health needs and kind of providing a required support for their mental health issues. So these other pictures are again of different of our community volunteers who are part of this journey. Just to stress upon, in India, most of the population from rural villages is based on the agriculture, or one of the main stream of occupation is agriculture and farming, and that's how they are related to largely either on directly with the farms or indirectly with the farming. What I want to just close this story of Naveen Bhai is through his journey as a champion. There is a huge potential for Naveen Bhai to generate a lot of self-learning, and through that self-learning, Naveen Bhai equips himself as well as his fellow community members, basically to enhance their well-being, to generate a lot of resilience and hope, and to reduce stigma and discrimination around mental health issues or mental health conditions. And that is how we are trying to close the biggest mental health care gap, what we call as a treatment gap, particularly in the most of the low middle income or low resource settings. And we are hoping to do this become like more like a momentum, so that communities now not only accepts them, but sustains this initiative throughout their life journey, and it carries on. So that is where I stop with the story of Naveen Bhai and Atmiyata. I hope I have a time, so I can show a 2 minutes film which we shot on Atmiyata. And just this is the last picture. So this is the group of champions or volunteers we have. Farmers is one of the major kind of, you can say, occupation of our champions, but there are many other community members who joins Atmiyata initiatives and work for Atmiyata as providing a psychosocial support to their community members.
Beautiful. Yes, please do share the film.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you, Kashtu.
So before I'll just begin the film, what I wanted to just say this film is the snippet or a part of the bigger film. The wider film is too little long. The film has been supported and shot by BBC Storyworks, and this film was supported by our funder, who is Indian-based funder, Mariwala Health Initiative. So I should acknowledge this first before starting the film. This is 2 minutes, 30 seconds film, which is just narrates the story of Atmiyata, as I just said.
Thank you. And can you share your screen again, Kashtu? Because we're not seeing the film, I don't know. And if you make sure to click share sound as well, I think we'll do that. Now you're muted, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
Sorry.
And
Is it without sound?
Kashtu, I think we don't hear the sound very well. We don't feel the sound very well. Noemi, do you have the video link?
Yeah, I might.
May I suggest that we listen to Christian and come back to the film after Kaustub?
Yeah, fine. Just I'll stop sharing. There's some issue with the voice. Yeah, we can go ahead with the session and I'll come back. I'll share
Yeah.
the film with
Perfect. Thank you very much.
If you want,
Sorry.
I put the video so I can try to
You can
share.
go ahead. Yeah, let's do that. And while Noemi sets it up, Kaustub, I'm impressed by the scale. And can you remind us when it all started? Because what surprised me when we first met your team was that it was in very few years that you reached that scale. Tell us when you started and how fast it went.
So we started in 2013, end of 2013, where we started with a pilot across 40 villages. Then we reached to around 600 villages in 2016, where we actually tested this initiative through the rigorous methodology, what we call as a randomized control trial. And then since 2019, we are actually doing the scale. And largely right now we are across, as I said, 5 states, across almost more than 2,000 villages now, and have around 2,400 to 2,500 volunteers.
Beautiful. Noemi, does the video work?
Yeah, let's try.
Let's try. Thank you all for your patience. It's worth it. It's worth the wait. Beautiful.
અને પપ્પાની નોકરી બંધ થઈ ગઈ, હપ્તો ભરવાનો હતો, પૈસા જ ના હોતા. ત્યારે તો બહુ ટેન્શન હતું, કશું ગમતું જ ના, કોઈના જોડે વાત કરવું ના ગમતું, કોઈ જવાનું ના ગમતું, બસ એકલી એકલી રહું એવું થતું.
આ જ્યારે પગના એક્સિડન્ટ પછી મારે ઘરે બેસવાનું થયું ને, એટલે ઘરમાં બેસીએ મારો સ્વભાવ ચીડિયો થઈ ગયો. મારો પગ ખરો ને એમ ધીમે ધીમે સોજો આવવા માંડ્યો. હવે અહીંયાથી જ ચાલવાનું બંધ કરજો. ડોક્ટરે એમને એવી સલાહ આપી. આપણે વાગવાથી જેટલું પીડા નથી થતી ને એટલી માનસિક પીડા વધારે થાય છે એની અંદર.
People are very well aware of the issues that they're living with, such as financial insecurity leading to distress, conflict within homes. So it's not the issue of awareness. It's actually how do you provide relevant mental health care at that point. I think rural India has some particular challenges. If I have to take one whole day off, spend money and try to find a psychiatrist or a psychologist in a bigger town, so that's one level of accessibility. The second one is hospitals, especially those in big towns, may be very alien. Beyond that, persons who have mental health concerns very often are pushed out of many spheres of life. So people don't want to talk about it. This leads to further invisibility. MHI is primarily a grant making and a capacity building organization that focuses exclusively on mental health. And we started in 2015. Atmiyata is a rural mental health program. And what it does is that it trains and develops the capacity of community volunteers to identify and provide basic mental health support. They also link and refer users in their communities to other services. Now, this could be trying to get a ration card, or it could be a referral to a psychiatrist in the district hospital.
મારી ડેરીએ ભાનુમતીબેન કરીને એક બેન અમારે ત્યાં રોજ દૂધ લેવા આવતા હતા. પણ એમને જ્યારે મને કીધું કે હું આપણી આ આત્મીયતાવાળી સંસ્થામાં કામ કરું છું, મારી વાત તમે 2 મિનિટ સાંભળો. એમને મને થોડી હિંમત આપી કે જો હવે આ રીતના તમને આવું ઇન્જર થયું, તમારો સ્વભાવ આવો ચીડિયો થઈ જાય છે, એનું કારણ એ કે તમારા બિઝનેસ ઉપર જઈ શકતા નથી. જેમ જેમ મને મળતા ગયા એમ મારામાં થોડો આમ સ્વભાવમાં પણ ફરક પડતો ગયો. એમની વાતમાં મને એમ થયું કે ના, આ વાત બેનની વાત બહુ સાચી છે, એમની વાત સાંભળવા જેવી છે, અને એ કહે એમ આપણે કરવાની જરૂરિયાત છે. ડૉક્ટર તો એની સારવાર કરે, પણ માનસિક ઇલાજ તો આ બેને ભાનુમતી બેને જ કર્યો.
So the Atmiyata model really has 3 levels. There are what are called community facilitators. Now they are people local to the region that Atmiyata works in, who have a social work background or a similar related degree. Champions are the second level, and they live in the village that they work in. The Mitras are also volunteers. Their main job is to go to the champion and say, hey, I think this person is facing some distress. Maybe you can go and talk to them.
હું આત્મીયતા પ્રોજેક્ટ અને બેંકમાં બી જોબ કરું. બંનેનું 3 વર્ષ થઈ ગયું. 3 વર્ષથી હું આમાં કામ કરું. જ્યારથી આત્મીયતા પ્રોજેક્ટમાં હું આવી ત્યારથી એક મને સેવા કરવાનો મોકો મળી ગયો.
નિકિતાબેને કીધું ગોમમાં ખાસી બધી વસ્તુનું જો તમે કરો તો હું તમને બતાવું. પછી એમને મને હાબુનું બતાવ્યું, અગરબત્તીનું, સાડીનું. એમને મને બહુ જ એટલે બહુ હેલ્પ કરી.
તો ઘરમાં પણ એમની પરિસ્થિતિ સુધરી અને લોનનો હપ્તો ચાલુ થઈ.
The Atmiyata program runs in the Mehsana district in Gujarat. There are 1,350 Mitras, 615 champions, 16 community facilitators, and a project manager. The Atmiyata model empowers communities to respond to their own mental health needs. It's done in a way which is accessible, feasible, sustainable, but also scalable. I think the most amazing thing about the Atmiyata program is that the community knows that it has its own resources, and the fact that Atmiyata works with the power of the community, I think, is very inspiring.
This is very beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Thank you.
And Charlotte, if I could just add, Kausa was a little humble there when he mentioned in rapid passing that they did a randomized controlled trial. That's no small feat. And I put the paper in the chat for everyone to link to. What is really distinctive about what they did was they drew on a deep evidence base that's been referred to as task sharing, which usually came out of primary care practices or the health system and kind of reached into the community. What they did is they started in the community and really anchored it into a community-based context, which I think is the future for this kind of work. And so it's really much more community-owned, where the health system is kind of a helper, not the center. And and I think it's the only RCT that's actually done that model, certainly in the Global South. So congratulations to them for putting that on the map.
Yeah, thank you. And I see a lot of enthusiastic responses in the chat. And Hoda, I'm going to be very rude host. I'm going to ask you if you can please write your question in the chat, because I would love to hear from Christian and Nana, and we will open the conversation. So yes, at this stage, please comment in the chat, and then we'll have the conversation. But unless you promise to be very short in 30 seconds, that I'm not compromising the time management. So Hoda, if your question is burning, do you want to? Okay, you'll wait. Thank you very much for your understanding. And actually, we're going to go from one inspiring example to another, also community-based. And this is the example of the FAO Dimitra clubs that Christiane Monsieur from FAO is going to introduce us to. She's been working on this initiative for many years. We used to be colleagues when I was in FAO. One thing that's an interesting distinction compared to Atmiyata is that the Dimitra clubs were not designed as a mental health intervention or psychological resilience. They have a whole other purpose. But by doing what they do, they are de facto contributing to improved well-being and psychological resilience in the communities where they work. And it's also very, very much in the communities. So Christiane, over to you. Please take us. Now we're going to travel probably more to Africa, because you're very active there, but not only. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlotte. Can you hear me, first of all?
Very well.
Okay, great. So indeed, I would say that we have seen a great example of a project, of a mechanism able to assist directly the people in need. In this case, it's really another way of addressing mental issues, and it's a way to, well, it's indirect and also very, very focused on enhancing resilience, including psychological resilience and empowerment. Well, we know, obviously, that that well-being and psychological resilience of the women and men smallholder farmers, in particular in these rural areas, which are quite isolated, as we also saw in that film. So there are so many facets in this of this well-being and psychological resilience. But today I would really like to focus on a very specific perspective that the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, has been leading, as you were saying, for the last 15 years, and in many of its projects in the field projects. So I'm talking here about the community perspective. Well, we know that the perspective of individual is crucial, and it was very clearly put in the video when it comes to psychological resilience. However, in Africa, in particular in African countries with a very low indicator of socioeconomic development, and where the people still live in very isolated and poor rural areas and depend on agriculture to make a living, the community perspective is crucial to ensure this change, a transformative change, but also to ensure improvement of livelihoods and quality of life, and particularly for rural women, who often have less opportunities to voice their rights, and for youth and for marginalized people. So everyone needs to be able to access well-being. Men, women, young people, vulnerable people. Well, but here, I think that the individual cannot be separated from the collective. The social group also, to which the person belongs to, has a really important role to play. And this is also the community, which has a very important role to play, because we're talking about living in a community, living together. So it's very difficult to separate the two, or even the three, if we're talking about groups. And really, this has been demonstrated by the achievements that FAO has obtained in actions and initiatives related to its mandate, which is ensuring a sustainable and a world free from hunger. And also, this is backed up by the statements of so many people you can hear in villages, and who say, how can I myself be satisfied if I have something to eat on my plate is full, and my neighbor family is starving? So this is something we need to start from, I think. Isolation in a village is very difficult. I mean, they're really in so many places in rural areas and isolated. It's one community. And so working with groups, working formal or informal, it could be both, and also counting on collective action has been really a key feature in FAO's work for better production, nutrition, environment, and life, which are the so-called four betters, an aspiration on the FAO current strategic framework. But, however, there is one specific area of work which has been increasingly at the center of attention in FAO, and also other actors, not only FAO, actors from the development and also humanitarian sectors, and which is very much connected with the theme of today, and also the context of the planet, as it was mentioned before, climate change and all the shocks and crises which come from there. So there is, and I was telling you, a specific area, and this specific area is new and old at the same time. And I would like to welcome to this wonderful world of the community-led approaches. So it's not community-based, it's community-led. And I would like to take you for a few seconds to a very short journey within these community perspectives, which are being used in poor and often isolated communities in Africa in particular. But it's not only Africa, you see that. And I would like to tell you a very few words about the Dimitra Claps approach, which is one of these community-led approaches, community mobilization approaches. Well, first of all, it was developed by FAO. It has been existing for now more than 15 years. And as I think that it's really increasingly being used in projects and programs of FAO and UN joint programs. So this approach is really based on something very basic and simple, very simple concepts. The clubs. First of all, I'll tell you what the Dimitra Clubs are. And the clubs are groups of women, of men and young people. They are mixed or not, depending on the context. And they organize on a voluntary basis, volunteers, like in the other approach used. And they're organizing to bring about changes in the communities and resolve problems using their own resources, using collective action and without relying on external support. This is something very important, this self-reliance aspect, because this reconstructs also the dignity of the person, also the confidence, self-confidence, the trust at local level with the community and the people and the other people of the community. So I really think that here, what is really important to remember that, well, first of all, are the principles of the approach, which are gender and inclusivity. So you can't do anything; they are inherent to the approach. Also, communication, and dialogue, which are really needed. We encourage, through the Dimitra Claps, people are really encouraged to participate in their own development, using their own talents. Most of them are illiterate, but they have so many talents, so many ideas, but they are not used to really voice them or reflect on them. So it's very important to have this aspect of participation. And also they have lots of resources, as I was saying, which are the talents, but also the social capital, which is very important. So the idea might be considered as very simple. If people, in particular women, but not only, are really given an opportunity to be in the driving seat of their own development, to have a voice in their community, to have a voice in their household, the agency, their leadership will improve. They will be more confident. They will be more confident and be less isolated and able to cope with shocks, whether recurrent or protracted or unexpected, as it often happens also today with the climate change. Everything will revive solidarity at local level, will revive social cohesion because of dialogue, because of expression, because of participation, and also making sure that no one is left behind, which is at the center of the Agenda 30, and also contributing to community resilience. So very quickly now, the approach has been implemented in 17 countries, basically in Africa, but not only, Western Africa in particular, the Sahel region, but also Eastern and Central Africa. It has been also adopted by other countries, and I'm showing now a few pictures of Dimitra Claps. You can see Dimitra Claps here from several parts: Niger, the DRC, Ecuador, also Cambodia, Senegal. It has, when we say that 9,000 Dimitra Clubs exist today in these 17 countries, accounting for 270 1,000 people, members, direct members, benefiting the entire community. So it's a community-led approach. It's based on solidarity. It involves and benefits the whole community. And so that's very important to note, because the Dimitra clubs work for the community. They work not only for themselves, but also for the community. They are really, and I think I will finish here, they are really important and powerful drivers for rural transformation, for gender transformative changes also, for people's empowerment, for women's leadership in rural areas, in particular of sub-Saharan African countries, but not only. They self-manage, they're sustainable, because they're used from the beginning to be sustainable. No support from outside. They're managed by the people themselves, and they contribute, in particular in FAO, to the achievements of FAO projects and programs. So they're like a component of these. And in various areas, could be nutrition, peace, food security, climate change, adaptation, and more. So I think that this kind of approach also make it possible for people to feel really less lonely, less isolated, and that for women, men, marginalized people, and everyone at community level to feel more confident and feel they can change their destiny, which is something we never think about because it seems so evident. But there people often have the feeling they can't change it. But through this process of empowerment and the agency also to do so, they realize they can change really and have more socioeconomic opportunities. So a few pictures again from Senegal, from Niger, from so many different places that really show these faces, which are very beautiful and very also very enthusiastic about the fact that they can really take their development into their hands. I hope I have not too much over time. These are just a few pictures on things being done by the Dimitra clubs themselves, showing that they are both improving the livelihoods, improving the quality of life at community level, but also working on social norms, on things that for instance, are a constraint for women to change life. Ecuador, to say low. So sorry, I've been a little long, but I hope it's not too long. We have also a small film, very small, short video of a woman in Niger, who has been participating in a Dimitra club. At the moment the video was prepared, it was not for so much. I would say that like the people who spoke just before me, Kaus Tup, I can't pronounce the name. He was mentioning about Amniata, a champion, and here we have another champion also. Different kind, but champions, both of them very useful, very important. And I would like to listen to a few words by Jamila. She's from Niger. And I will ask maybe, I don't know if Andrea or Noemi.
Noemi has the video, right? Yes, there we go.
Aino Jamil Hassan dubbango kwaniya wallahi wa kolo bon fera ka kandi sai kwarora kaci aiwo Jamila aino hinka ne aini alhamdulillah ka bisa ba kwara wai bar halaga to ga zama idu bon ferai ba wane kan ai gote wa alhamdulillah bon ferai no kan ai du da hin fani no kan kolo mo no kan da ai sai wato kan kolo man ka ba ika ka kai jarga ya kin alboron ai si hin kasalan ai si ba han kan dai gane sanura amma hin kuna alhamdulillah wallahi nan kurki kon dai ai ga ba han kai ga ki kolo mo no kan da ai sai bon ferai wane ka tonta ne sai la kaloga ya ne ga mo ba ir kwara wai bore hin kunu yi kauye bore wato yi te saji bore amma hin kuna alhamdulillah bon ferai go bore ga hay kulka ikan da wai bordo wallahi wai buraga hin kati aga hinka ta afaham iga sabu modi alhakai ka tara yango kan kolobu kandi sai da manje kolobu wata kuli gogi al hakaita mun o yisi ga fahamda amma hin kuna hay kulka yi ne yi gaba yi babai di nyangai tubaira igi hin kadwai yi ga sabi ga talfi ma wallahi ma kolobu no kanda da manje kolobu yisi ga duwa giri yan ba kan wai borga hin yi ga tabi yisi ga fahamdi al hakai kadai kan ir koy no kolobu ka tara yise ko fo mo na ga kasinai ya alhamdulillah hay kulkan idu hay kulka yi ga ne yi hin kata hin kun kolobu no kanda yisi ya dinga alhamdulillah yi ko dinga ya sabu da tubuka ya kine da bor babu te kisi zam babu dura ra dai no yi ga tubuka tare wati dini gi no arzaka ga da no kwara no da almanno amma hin kun labo gano igi wai borai wani tamu hay kulkan kine babu sinda ne kurnya kwara no din sinda ni gi hede kidi ka windi no amma hin kun ka idu kolobu kan di se bon fere yi almai gi ka faiki no iga toru no yi mazanga wono yi mazai wono hay kan burba dai no ni ga teni wana si yani ga wato wo kai wallahi si gudu wayi tabi halaki amma hin kun ka alhamdulillah wallahi kun bora kulbo ngai feri yi wona fati almai wona ira borai wona wai borai wona gudi kulgandi ba wallahi Jamil Hassan ai ga sabu kolobu sai irkoi maka koi digina irkoi misaye banda mu tantana mu koi gina bani da lafiya.
Wow, go Jamila. And go Dimitra. Thank you. Thank you so much, Christian. And thank you, Andrea, for sharing the origin of the name, that Dimitra in Greek mythology, Demeter is the Olympian goddess of the harvest and agriculture, presiding over crops, grains, food. Beautiful. And thank you for showing how personal well-being is so intrinsically related to the community well-being, the livelihoods, the practical support, and how all of this can be addressed together. We're going to come back to Nana for our last little visit. Nana, I'll ask you to be very succinct if you're able to, because maybe 8 minutes or so that we have time for discussion with our friends here. Yes, and you're going to tell us also about what you're doing in Sikkim with the farmers, what you're planning to do, and this magical concept of the economy of love, which I think is a beautiful thing to learn about. Please, the floor is yours on whatever you wish to share with us today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think I can be a little bit shorter because compared to the before presentations, thank you very much. We are a little bit more mini in a way, but I will share the story from Egypt. You may wonder, I don't look like Egyptian. So I was born in South Korea. I was trained in England, but there's a reason I end up in Egypt because of our organization called SECAM. So I will share also presentations. I will share the screen. So let's try share screen first, like that, and then present. Can you see the screen?
Yes, I'm loving that we're doing a world tour here as we're going through our presentation. Thank you for the images, everybody. Go for it, Nana.
Yeah, so I prepared a bit more the sharing about image from the SECAMs. You can have a little bit more imagination where I live and where I work. So SECAM is founded 1977 in Egypt. This is our founder, Ibrahim Abulesh's picture. So he moved to Egypt 1977. He bought the land and he said, okay, I want to create community which is taking care of nature and human. So whoever come to work, the farmers call, but like they are the village people who need the money to come to work. So that's become farmers, that's our community members. And she said, okay, our principle is very simple, taking care of nature and taking care of human being. And taking care is also psychologically, physically, community-wise, everything what you can imagine. But for him, it was very important. In the very beginning, I heard this story. We have only tent in the desert land. He bought a red tractor and grand piano. So grand piano meant for him, it's the well-being part of the human development. It can be health, it can be education, it can be children. So this image I really want you to carry when you think about SECAM, red tractor and grand piano in the desert. So from the day one, 1977, for him, it was very important to taking care of our employee, and especially at the time, start with the farmers, their families. Also, farmers can be also village girls, village men, everybody come. He said, if you come and work in Sechem, I will take care of your, I mean, at that time, you didn't call it mental health, your well-being. So he already provided some kind of art program for joy, for beauty, and harmony, parallel with their working dynamic. So this from the very beginning time, 1980s and 90s. Of course, farmers from the village, like, what is this art? Art is like far away from them. But he said, why not? Art is because we are human beings. You need a joy, you need a enjoyment and then harmony. Painting, music, all this galabea with the farmers, what's going on? But they are just smiling. That was important for him to see people not only working in the super sun from 9 hours per day, 6 days a week, but there is a time they can also love each other, meeting each other, not as a farmer, not as a title of the working, but as an individual person. You draw like this. This is your soul quality. Some movement program also in the next to the farm. So when I came there 5 years ago because I heard there's one place in Egypt doing art and health program for anybody who's working in the field, compost or factory workers. That's how I end up there, because this was only one company and farm who will hire me 100%. So I can work in this with the people every week. So this is a Mizen workers. Mizen is the plant nursery place. They are also farmers, so-called. They are from the village who's working in our plant nursery department. They are 17, 18, 19 years old. They haven't been to the school. They haven't been to the university. But what I can offer is your own mental and physical well-being. This video is not working. This earth and sky kind of program with the farmers. If video doesn't work, doesn't matter. You already did it with me in the beginning. And this is also another farm. Of course, farm workers of, I don't know how it's differentiated from the Europe Western concept about farmers. We have a farmers and farm workers. They are those young boys from the different area. They come and work 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days, 9 hours, 10 hours per day in the field, growing organic biodynamic vegetables. So for us, okay, if you come and work with us, we take care of you, your own development, your joy, your happiness, and then also many kind of being a human being. This is all our engineers, farmers, farm workers, and we also provide some cultural festival practice. So we collect like all our workers together. We give some acting course. So parallel to their working on the farm life, they have this acting course, which they never imagined, but they are so beautiful, so talented young people. Don't mistake about artists has to be special people. So they are doing the stick dance in between. And we also have a twice a week festival in Sechem. So now 2023, we have 2,000 employees and 900 small farmers working together. We are like schools and medical center. More stories you can find our website, www.sechem.com. But I come back to my mental health for farmers subject. So we encourage people to really feel joy and then festivity, because life is tough. Even you mentioned about from India, from Africa, you share the beautiful videos, but I now living 5 years here, I know why people are suffering from financial situation, which Charlotte mentioned in the very beginning. But what can we do? How we can offer about this mental health well-being program? We want to approach the holistic aspect. So we visit the farms and we have a really community building project and then training. So this is now final, so it's quite relatively new. 2 years ago, after the COVID time, 2021, we thought, okay, now how we translate our own Sechem kind of activities. We didn't call it mental well-being, but how can this can be systemized? So our Helmi Abulesh, he's our CEO at Sechem. So he said, okay, Nana, what if we created health insurance company, which is providing integrative health services? I wonder how many of you pay health insurance every month? if we have a health insurance company which is providing all this mental wellness before you get ill, really preventive aspect, an art program as a joy and the celebration kind of compensation before you already went to this illness dimension, how the world would look like. But this is quite new. So last 2 years, we are now really developing about our health insurance company called Eco Health Company. So now also like this year, 900 farmers are joining to be organic farming, biodynamic farming, like agricultural practice. So we offer together, if you want to be organic farmers, biodynamic farmers, we'll offer eco health service for you and your family. Now, so when I work as before was more artist, educator, now I'm studying also therapy to support our farmers and their families' wellness. Main thing was when I surveyed our farmers, they said, Nana, we are okay, but we are concerned about our children, their future, their well-being. So that's what I hear from our farmers. And then we are also developing what is the education for children, well-being for children, what is their diet health program. So according to the survey, we are now slowly designing more community building program, and then also one-to-one coaching, but especially for addressing the children and wife of the farmers. But we are, of course, we are a little bit more beginning stage compared to the presentation I heard from 10 years ago and 7 years ago. So inspired now, I'd love to contact you, but it's more our message is what is really well-being. Before, what make mental health nowadays so much, this become so much issue, and especially Africa or India is a joyful country, and also religious value is behind. So how can you really understand what's happening in human development in the whole society? Where is actually we are missing thread from where we can work, and together with the one-to-one session and then this coaching session, what else community activity can kind of come together? Maybe we are missing festival, we are missing a bit more joyful life. So we don't want to lose and only working as a health insurance services, but what is also community activity, almost like it's mental health services. So I got also inspired. I'm happy to talk about in this direction of second practice from 46 years. Why Ibrahim Aboulesh put the piano section or like a meter, he put the piano next to it.
Thank you so much, Nana. Thank you. And we can see how much heart you're putting into your work with all of the SICM team. And we already have somebody keen to connect with you, I'm sure. You were saying it's a micro project, but it's macro in heart energy. And it's exactly why we're together, and happy that you can share it with us, because we want many, many more people to be applying this everywhere. So thank you. Wow, you've been very patient, all of you, for waiting for the time to exchange. The floor is open. If you want to come in with a question or an example, please just raise your hand. You can also type things in the chat. If you do take the floor, I'll invite you to be succinct so that everybody who wants to start can. And Hoda, thank you so much for waiting and for your patience. Please go ahead.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I wanted to say that our organization, our company is a regenerative organic food and beverage company, and we're working directly with regenerative organic farmers, both in the US and internationally. We also meet 11 of the 17 SDG goals. And the Atmayata, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, project, I would simply like to know with whom I should speak, because we would like to, we have an impact model called 7 Chakras, 7 Causes. I'll put it in the link, where we're giving from our top line revenue to 7 different causes. And one of them is around mental health. One of them is around saving soil. And so I would just like for our company to support the Atmayata project in India, because we're an Ayurvedic company, and because we work together with a 3rd generation Gujarati Ayurveda practitioner. So that's very close to my heart. I'll put it in the link, or if you can just please put a contact for me in the link. And then I have one question for the people who are working on the ground in Africa, India, and Egypt, and elsewhere, is the farmers, what is their situation with regards to seeds? Are they already are they using heirloom seeds? Are they using genetically modified seeds? Can you please shed some light on that from the Dimitria project and otherwise the Atmayata project as well?
Thank you, Hoda. If you can note the question, dear colleagues, I will like to hear several voices, and maybe we can take several questions at a time. But thank you for that, and great. You know, already that's the power of connection, drawing more support of various kinds. And Sumya, your hand is raised. Please, welcome. Thank you for introducing yourself and sharing your question.
Hi, good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for this interesting presentations, and it's opened up our eyes in many topics. I want just to share a little thing, like it's an experience that I was like having between Vietnam, the Middle East, and today Africa, is that there is a difference between farmer and farm owner. So mainly when the farm owner, he know how to farm. He already like engaged his hand and he is in the field. So we can feel there is less pressure in the farmers. But when the farm owner, he don't know, so he will keep giving like a high expectation and thinking that the farmer are responsible for everything. Like it's about production, the production need to succeed. And in that, I hope that some work could be done, especially in Middle East, because maybe in Africa and Asia, like people, they are more connected to the earth and they are practicing. But in the Middle East, like there is more and mainly farm owner, and we can see that the farmer are like just like reaching targets. And this is make a lot of pressure on them. They are working on heat condition, and like even though there it's let's say culturally they can like help them give water, consider a little bit, but still like there is a really little awareness. And this is just like yeah, if those association could also involve the Middle East in their program, this will be really great for the farmer. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you, Sumya, and thank you for reminding us that there's many categories of people under the word farmer, farm owners, the ones who farm, also daily laborers who often have very difficult circumstances, going from really literally hand to mouth situations. So it's very important. And I would like to also add in this dimension of the type of farming one engages in, you know, whether in your big industrial farm where you might be quite disconnected from the land, or whether you're in a regenerative farm, also has a big impact on the well-being. I see a question in the chat from Andrea, but Andrea, I would like you, if you don't mind, to actually ask the question in person, because it can also help people see another magical face that is making Dimitra very present in the world. But yes, please share your question orally. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. Well, yes, my name is Andrea, and I work with Christian here in Rome in this fantastic family of Dimitra clubs. I was just wondering, well, we know that all this is, as early adopters, all this is fantastic, and the energy we put into all this work is passion and is love, but it's also a changing in paradigm, right? As development practitioners, let's say, we really try to think out of the box. So sometimes it's not difficult indeed to implement. Sometimes these kinds of approaches we heard, sometimes these are invisible even. Why are we doing what we are doing, right? So I was wondering if the speakers could maybe share with us some challenges that they have encountered, and maybe some lessons learned that they have identified to overcome some of these challenges, because I think this is very helpful also as a as a family of practitioners here also to share what are the challenges and how are we also able to overcome this in our daily work in terms of implementation. Thank you.
Thank you for a great question. It's not all rosy. Now it's a lot of work. So yes, all our speakers, if you know about seeds, please do answer Hoda's question. But also, yes, this very important question from Andrea about challenges, lessons learned, how you're overcoming them, and so on. Who wants to start? Kastub.
Thanks. Sorry, just responding to previous questions. Seeds, I don't have any knowledge because though I'm a son of a farmer, but I choose medicine, and since then I have completely detached from farming. Sorry for that. So maybe other speakers, if they know about seeds. In our program, per se, we don't directly work across farming or farming related activities. So again, I don't have that knowledge. I want to just add one comment what Soumya said just briefly. I completely agree. In India, that's the huge issue about different types of farmers, and largely farming dominated by the large farmers who are the owners of the land. And there is a huge, people, what we categorize, the government categorize them as a landless laborers who are doing the farming. And that's a huge informal workforce, unfortunately, doing the farming. The other thing I wanted to say is basically there is a gender issue also here, that many women who are farming are not owners of their farms, and it is owned by men. And that's the huge gender divide, what at least I see in India and across the areas, villages where we work. So that's only an additional point I wanted to just highlight. Coming back to the Andrea's question, many challenges, Andrea, frankly, at least for Atmiyata, the journey has been quite tough. I would say the main learning in mental health, what we got is the language. I think the language is the important challenge and important learning what we have. So really, we need to break down the mental health and try to understand the language of the community, because every community there has their own language of mental health, resilience, coping, and so on and so forth. So unless and until we understand their language and work with them to co-design the intervention, it's not going to work. It's my experience. The second thing I would say, the important is also the challenge was for us, and there are failures. So there is a community buy-in. And unless and until community accepts the initiative, what we have done, and that's why the involvement of community from the start, like what we do whenever we go into new area, we first involve and build the trust of community and then start the intervention rather than just rushing the intervention. And lastly, I would say, the bottoms-up approach. Frankly, if you go with the top-down approach, saying that I know everything about mental health, my background is in psychiatry. So if I go and say that I know everything about mental health and I'm the expert on mental health, I don't think it's going to work like that, because every one of us knows about mental health. Every one of us has their own strategies to deal with mental health issues. And unless and until we respect that, I don't think that equality or the top-down approach is going to work. So around this, what I'm trying to say is there are multiple challenges working with the communities on mental health. And the last point I would say, and what we have done with Atmiyata, we have not spoken the language of illness. We have spoken the language of wellness. Because there is a huge stigma around language of illness. So the moment you say, you are working on depression, anxiety, so you throw the diagnosis in that sense, the stigma is huge and there is a lot of discrimination in communities. So what we have done, I can share our material also of the reports. We have used the language of mental health, well-being, stress, distress, day-to-day issues, and so on. So I think that those are the learnings and challenges. There are multiple implementation challenges, research level challenges, which we have covered in our papers also. So those are the few points. Thanks for time.
Thank you very much. Nana, I see you're unmuted. Please come in. And I know this is going to speak to you too as well. Speaking of wellness rather than illness. Go ahead.
And because I hear this question about challenges, because in the beginning, of course, I'm not from Egypt. And this art was always, they relate with something Western, something strange practice. So I had a very much conversation about what is actually art and culture, not saying art, but there's a singing, there is a dancing in a traditional sense. What is all this practice, where is gone, from Korea, from Africa, or maybe Africa is maybe more, but in more Islamic background, yeah. So I want to tell you one story about Mohammed Farid. He was one of the picture. He said, Nana, why we need to do all this kind of art thing, I'm a farmer. I'm an accountant's farmer and the organizer. And then, so I said, after 3 months, you tell me why we are doing this. So we did a session with the movement and the sharing circle. And after 3 months, I said, Mohammed, so why do you think what we are doing these things? And he told me, Nana, we are human beings. We need a joy. Yeah, it's so simple like this. At the same time, there was a challenge also. How do I meet? But our founder, Ibrahim Abulesh, he always take care of people. He always listened to people. He's very famous, about 2,000 employees talking about him, and he loved people. And there was also my practice, learn from Egypt. If I don't love people, they don't trust me. Mental health, I'm not ill. But if I show how I love, Islamic Egyptian people has a 7th sense. So I really learn from them. Do I really love the people? Whatever I bring mental health or like development, is it developing? Or I go with a love base. So our also program title is Economy of Love. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nana. Thank you, Christian. And Christian, do you want to come in on some of your lessons?
I think it's difficult after these beautiful words from Nana, which sound like really a conclusion. Well, in any case, I would just like to say that I think that this area of psychological resilience, but also well-being, is not something which is really let's say, one of the priorities in these very technical organizations where we work. And yes, seeds, not seeds. The big problem, I think, I'm not an economist. I work on the social and human side of development more than technical side. And well, obviously, yes, they are genetically modified seeds. There are climate resilient seeds, improved technologies. But I think what is missing in these very small and isolated communities with small holders really fighting every day is really access to inputs and to seeds. That's the main problems they face. And this might obviously be a very important cause for, depression or, what am I going to do? And so this hope also and this willingness to look for solutions and not abandon the game is really of importance. I think that so I'm sorry, I can't really give you a real good and technical answers. And this is maybe the point, that's a little bit what I was saying before. We are working with technical issues. And so this is not something people are willing to listen to also, because, and this is something, it's a challenge, a little bit responding to what Andrea was asking. There is not enough impact assessment being done on the impact of using these approaches, of having these projects, because the impact is not only on mental health itself or well-being itself, it's also on better production, on better livelihoods, better caring for the environment. But we have quite a lot of gaps in terms of assessment of these elements of psychological resilience, empowerment, and we lack indicators also. But again, on the impact, and in our case, the linkage between collective action and resilience. So I think that from us, there is really a big work still to be done in terms of research, but also in terms of assessing the impact of the work we are doing, general impact, and touching lots of things, not only mental health, but so many things. Thank you
so much. And on measurement, actually, one of One initiative is also the Inner Development Goals that have developed an interesting framework that we can look at for that dimension, which is often not captured. I'd just like to conclude from my side with a couple of points, also picking up on some comments I think Vishva made in the chat around the policies. I think it's very important as we work on these issues not to minimize the policy context, which is making things more or less difficult for different groups. So I think we have to be really attentive to this community level and individual level action, but also the impact policies have. And another area of work you can dive in. I think I'm seeing a lot of connections in what you're all sharing with some other work we're doing in COFSA on regenerative cultures. And we've held a few in-depth sessions with really inspiring programs that are having these holistic approaches similar to SECEM. And there's another session I think planned in November. Noemi will tell us more about these in a second. We're also going to be partnering with an initiative connecting climate minds, which is also looking at the links between climate and mental health. So that's, again, the power of connection, and Gary can tell us more. And before I turn to Gary for his final words, and then we let Noemi tell us how we can stay in touch. You've mentioned love, you've mentioned joy. A friend of mine told me once, Charlotte, there's an unwritten SDG which infuses all the others, and it's about love and joy. Some of us call it SDG 0, the foundation. When I was hearing you all speak, I'm like, we need indicators on that SDG in the Agenda 2030, because that's the way we can make sure we're all heading into the world being a better place. So thank you for all of you. And Gary, some final thoughts before we hand over to Noemi.
I mean, wow, it's not like we don't know what to do. We know we have really good models. It's really how do we grow the will to do more of it. And the kind of infrastructure at a global level to propagate and spread great practices. And so one of the things we hope for this network is can we help grow it into that kind of an action mode, and hopefully more of our events as we move forward will get into that gear. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, our partnership, 400 organizations with the Race to Resilience, who wants to reach 4 billion people by 2030. I mean, that's the kind of aspiration that is doable and that is starting to happen. Networks of networks forming. You mentioned the IDGs, Charlotte. We are partnering with them. We have regional hubs. They want to set up 300 hubs, how to spread this. So let's get to channels that can move a lot of these ideas around. And so hopefully more to follow on how this can be both a learning network, but also an action network.
Thank you very much, Gary, and pleasure to be collaborating with you. And Fatoumata, if you can please just write in the chat, because I'm afraid we're drawing the meeting to a close and I need Noemi to be able to pass it on. I'm also going to put in the chat the link to Connecting Climate Minds, which is another interesting consortium to be in touch with. So Noemi, over to you.
Thank you, Charlotte. I put in the chat some links for you to be and stay in touch. Maybe I can pass it again. And thank you for joining us today. And yes, next month in November, we will have 2 events online. One will be a collective inquiry on traditional wisdom for conscious food systems, where we will share the results of the dialogue that we run over the summer on indigenous people and traditional knowledge and local communities. And this collective inquiry will be led by Bernard Goury, who is our indigenous people advisor. And then we will have another in-depth session on regenerative cultures. The date is not yet defined, so please stay in touch on our website and read our emails. And maybe if you have not yet done, subscribe to our newsletter through the website. So I pass the words back to Charlotte.
Thank you very much, Noemi. Well, just to say thank you for being with us. We will be sharing the recording. Pass it round, pass it round. Let's get the words of these interesting initiatives out. Let's help others do the same thing. And that's why we can amplify, come to scale, and help more farmers. So thank you. Wishing you a beautiful end of the day.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Thanks to our amazing speakers, not only for what you shared, but for what you do. Bye.
We can feel it. Thank you, everyone. Such a wonderful session again.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.